Welcome to the Jungle Pathing Iceberg Master video. This video is a collection of 4 different videos of a series I created to help people path into jungles, so it might not flow the greatest when switching to the next video. But I hope you enjoy learning a lot of information about how to path in the jungle, and if you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Enjoy the show. Jungle in League of Legends can be a pretty daunting role. They are by far one of the most important players on the map. They offer support for all lanes, they take objectives, and will overall be there for a fight. But how does this role accomplish all of this and be able to carry to win the game? This video will go over a very detailed look into jungle pathing and why it is super important to master it. Before we get started, I am still offering free coaching VOD reviews for anyone that would like one. Any rank, any role, just go into the description of this video and add me on Discord so we can get one started for you. One last thing before we start. I'm going to say a lot of league lingo you might or might not know about, and I just want to make sure you can understand what this particular word means, as it isn't an easy concept to understand. Tempo. Tempo, or a jungler's tempo, refers to the jungler's ability to efficiently manage their time and resources to maintain map pressure and dictate the pace of the game. So having a better or faster tempo means you are playing efficiently and quickly. Having a worse or slower tempo means you are playing inefficiently and slowly. For other words, I will have some pop-up definitions for when they come up. So, jungle pathing. Jungle pathing is the routes and movement patterns a jungler uses to navigate the map, specifically when and where to farm jungle camps, gank lanes, or invade the enemy jungle. This macro concept dictates so much of your gameplay, decisions, your location on the map, and it is super flexible. You can do so many different routes for full clearing, ganking, or invading, and in between these routes, we can switch it up based on the information we know, like knowing the jungler is doing an objective on one side of the map, or we see a fight break out near us. One thing you should know is that jungle pathing is an early/mid game concept. In the late game, jungle paths don't matter as the game opens up a lot more and there's a way higher importance of fighting rather than farming, like fighting for an objective, fighting for a tower, or just a random team fight. You don't want to be that jungler who is busy farming wolves when your team is fighting in the enemy base. Anyways, if you draw out how many different paths you can take for the jungle, it will be covered in paths as we have so many decisions. But let's not start off with this. Let's start at the tip of the iceberg for jungle pathing. This might be the tip, but there's still a lot to learn. What lane do we want to gank the most? You should ask this question every time you're loading into the game. Who can carry? We can obviously be a carry, but it would be even better if we can make a second carry. If we want our ADC to carry, it might be useful to start on the top side of the jungle, so when we hit level 3 after clearing all the top camps, we can already be heading towards the bot side of the jungle. If we want top to carry, we should start bot side, so when we hit level 3, we can already be heading towards the top side of the jungle. The 2 outer lanes mostly dictate what path we choose on our clear, and mid lane is in the middle of the map, so it doesn't really matter what path we choose as we will always be near the mid lane. This is called creating a strong side and weak side jungle path. This is the most common path most junglers take when it comes to playing in the jungle. It is really hard to be everywhere on the map as a jungler, but if we create a strong side and weak side path, we can almost guarantee at least one side of the map is doing well as you are supporting that side a lot more. Our weak side is the side that we start on. This side is going to be weak as we are not going to make any plays on this side of the map because we want to support our strong side. Our strong side is the side we path to. This side is stronger because we will be finishing our clear on this side, which makes us have a timer where we can do something like ganking and taking objectives. Now that we know the 2 sides and why they are that way, let's establish some basic rules that you should follow when playing this path. Weak side camps should never be skipped. These camps will be your guaranteed gold for the whole game. We want these camps to be down at all times, as the longer they stay up, the longer they will not be respawning. What I'm trying to say is, when we clear a camp, that camp starts a respawn timer. Once the timer hits 0, the camp will respawn and be able to be taken again. If we take a longer time to return to clear the camp, the gold difference will start to add up, as we are just taking our jungler slower. We aren't allowing the respawn timer to start, making us have less CS over time. This is also a reason why we don't gank on this side either. Ganking on this side is overall a waste of time. Number 1, we aren't clearing our jungle when we go for the gank, making us lose CS over time as we again are not letting these camps start their respawn timer. Number 2, we are wasting our precious time or tempo on this side of the map when we want that time or tempo to guarantee that the strong side always has backup. This rule has like one loophole, but it is super strict. You can only go for a gank on this side of the map if it is a guaranteed kill. They are stupidly pushed up with no vision, no summoner spells, no escapability, no HP, and no mana. If we fail this gank, we just wasted so much time and tempo and got nothing for it. That is why it is so strict. So, the rules are, farm the weak side as much as possible, and don't gank on the weak side. Weak side is a side with rules, but the strong side has opportunity. While we are on the strong side, at any point in time, we can skip these camps to either support our laners or take objectives. We want this to be our utmost priority. Help our strong side lanes as much as possible, and when we have downtime, we can farm. So, we talked about how to play this jungler path, but how do we know we are doing everything right? Let's run through some scenarios. You are currently in the weak side of your jungle clear when you see a fight break out in the bot lane. The fight looks pretty even and no one is clearly winning in any circumstance. Should we assist them? No, we should not. The rule is to not gank on this side and only go for them if the kills look guaranteed. If they aren't, we should ignore and continue clearing. Pretty simple example. Let's do a little more complicated one. You have currently finished clearing your entire jungle and you got a gank out on top. It didn't go well, but it at least helped them push in. Your weak side camps are about to respawn pretty soon. You can tell they are respawning soon because of the hourglass that appeared on them, meaning they will be spawning in 10 seconds. It looks like there is also a gank opportunity mid, with them being semi-pushed up and around half HP. What should we do? This one is a little tricky, but if we look at the rules, we want our weak side camps to be down at all times. This means we should recall and then go to our weak side to clear it. This is why I called them rules for the weak side and opportunities for the strong side. We have an opportunity to go for a gank mid, but our rules dictate we shouldn't waste any more of our time and go to our bot camps. The opportunity needs to be so good to outweigh the rule. If the kill was guaranteed in the mid lane, the opportunity outweighed the rule because we get 300 gold for the kill, and about 200 gold clearing our weak side. It is the same reason why we don't go for ganks on our weak side, because it wastes time and tempo. If we fail the gank mid, we wasted time not clearing, basically not being the most efficient we could be. It also gives the enemy jungler an opportunity to come steal our camps, but we will go more in depth on that reason a little bit later. But let's move on to a very tricky scenario. You are on the strong side of the map and just finished ganking mid and top and got amazing ganks off. Since you took so much time doing that, you had no opportunity to farm all of your strong side, but your weak side camps are about to respawn pretty soon. You can tell they are respawning soon because of the hourglass that appeared on them, meaning they will be spawning in 10 seconds. Should we clear our strong side camps and then recall to our weak side, or should we recall and clear our weak side and then go to our strong side? The rules again dictate what we should do. We want our weak side camps to be down at all times, so the faster we get to them, the more often they will be respawning. So we should recall and go to our weak side camps. The rule does help us make the right decision, but there's actually more reasons why we should do this. You are probably wondering why it isn't good to go for the rest of our strong side camps. The simple answer is jungle camp timers. We know that jungle camps start respawning once we clear them. If we go to these camps and clear them, when we return back to our strong side after clearing the weak side, these camps will still be down, and you will have to use your tempo now, as you are free from clearing your jungle. This basically restricts you from setting your own time to use your tempo, to only being able to use your tempo in this one area of your clear. This might be bad because maybe top is doing well and doesn't need help, and mid is doing well too, and they also don't need help. So now we are sitting doing nothing with our time and tempo. Then, once the camps do respawn, we clear them. Now we have our weak side camps coming up, so our rule says we need to recall and go for them. But now our top side needs help, but the opportunity doesn't outweigh the rules, so now we screwed up our path. This makes us path like this infinitely until we do what we were supposed to do, and clear our weak side camps before the rest of the strong side camps. If we go back in time and make the right decision of clearing the weak side, when we head towards our strong side, we can make the opportunity to go for any gank on any of these camps. We can gank before and after wolves, before and after gromp, and before and after blue. This gives us way more options on when we can use our tempo rather than having our tempo be used in one area. You were probably thinking to yourself, wow, that is a lot of information and I'm ready to become a challenger jungler. But as I said before, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now let's get further into the iceberg and talk about more concepts that kind of shift and mold how we change our path and how we clear. One thing that can be pretty hard to do when starting to play the jungle is picking a champion. There are a lot of champions in the jungle and they all have their strengths and weaknesses with clearing, ganking, and invading. But thankfully, we can kind of put these champions into classes of what they excel at or what kind of restrictions they have because of who they are. Let's talk about these categories. Farming junglers, ganking junglers, and the mixed bag junglers. Farming junglers are champions that would rather clear their entire jungle before doing anything else, as they are heavily reliant on maybe hitting a certain level, or are not as good at ganking. Some champions that are like this are Fiddlesticks, Evelynn, and Karthus. All three of these champions scale really well and love consistent gold like their jungle camps. All of them, before level 6, are pretty terrible though. They rely on their ult a lot, which has its downsides, but also their upsides. Since they rely on their ults so much, their ults are heavily boosted in its power and are by far the strongest ults in the game. Evelynn's ult isn't really that strong, but when she hits level 6, she's completely invisible unless they have pink wards. Anyways, the downsides are that if they don't have their ult, it can be a pretty easy fight against them, which can allow the other jungler to steal camps, gank more, and take free objectives. The whole job of the farming jungler is to get their consistent gold to hopefully scale into the late game and win off their amazing teamfight capabilities and scaling. So how does this type of clearing work when playing a farming jungler? If we go back to our strong side and weak side path, we have some new rules for them. An easy rule is don't gank before level 6 unless you have some downtime and is guaranteed. For example, if we are playing Fiddlesticks and doing our first clear, once we finish that first clear and get our Scuttle Crab, we have some downtime until our camps respawn. If we have a gank opportunity somewhere, we can take it, but we need to realize that we aren't level 6 and have way less damage than other champions. This goes into a little bit of matchups and understanding if we can win versus a certain laner. We will go over matchups in the future, but for now, let's just say it looks guaranteed. We can go for the gank since it looks good and recall once we finish it, as our weak side camps should be respawning. Let's go back in time a little and say that the gank was not possible. We still have some downtime after clearing Scuttle, so what is the plan? One thing we can do is try to double Scuttle the enemy jungler. This means we go to the other Scuttle, and if they haven't taken it already or are too busy ganking somewhere, we can take it from them and do a pretty big blow to their gold and EXP. If it isn't up, oh well, we could just recall and continue our full clear again. We didn't talk about this much, but Scuttles are very good. They offer a bunch of EXP and gold to fast track our levels and items. It also offers a good point of vision, we have a great position on the map while taking it, and a speed boost if we walk through the taken Scuttle. Don't die for Scuttles though, as if we at least get one, it is okay to lose the second. This makes me want to talk about another scenario which can happen in about 50% of your games. We are a farming jungler and have just finished doing our first full clear. We are about to go to Scuttle, but we see that the enemy jungler is around. This means that they matched our path from bot to top and wanted the Scuttle. Again, this scenario is matchup based, but since we are a farming jungler, we can take into heavy consideration we will probably not win this fight. So let's give it up and move to the other Scuttle and take that one instead. These are just a few tips and rules we should follow so we can at least get through the early game, which is our main goal for these types of junglers. Now we have finally talked about this jungle class. Here are the champions from most farming to least farming junglers in this class. Karthus, Fiddlesticks, Shyvana, Evelynn, Master Yi, and Graves. Farming is cool and all, but I want to see some kills on our side. Alright, if you like killing so much, Psycho. Why don't you try ganking junglers? These junglers would love to have more opportunities to gank, and farm isn't really what they want. Farming is still a core part of jungling, but sometimes we can play certain characters that are just so good at ganking it can snowball. One thing you should know about these characters is that most of them don't have a great late game. They usually sacrifice late game power for better early game power, and that can be good, but also pretty bad. Ganks are the most important for these junglers, and if they can't do them or they fail, they will start falling behind. We'll talk more about countering of all these junglers, but that will be a little bit later. How do these junglers have more opportunities to gank, and how do their opportunities change? Let's go back to our strong side and weak side path to see how they can differ. Oh, actually, scratch that. Let's not do that. Let us just start with an empty map. The one cool part about these junglers is that strong side and weak side don't exist as much, or at least the rules for weak side are a little bit more relaxed. Any gank opportunity is a good one, as their ganks are really just that good. We can say that ganking on weak side is actually kind of okay, but it still needs to work a bit in our favor. Since our early game is so good, we can do some cheesy ganks that most people will not pay attention to unless you're versing challengers. Most of them have a good level 2 gank. Think of stuff like Jarvan, Nunu, and Vi. All of these characters just need 2 levels to get a pretty decent gank off. In order to do a level 2 gank, most people would start either red or blue depending on what level 2 gank you want to do, and clear a second camp into the direction of the lane you want to gank. So if you want a level 2 gank top, we would get blue then Gromp. Level 2 gank top side ganking mid, we would take blue then Wolves. Level 2 gank bot side ganking mid, we take red then Raptors. And then level 2 ganking bots take red then Krugs. I doubt most junglers until Emerald will actually start punish you after you do this, but there is a counter to that punish as well. Again, we will talk about that a little bit later. For the most part, if we see a gank opportunity that looks good, we can go for them, but there is a catch to that. You are still a jungler, and junglers still need to farm. It is your job to find that fine line where you can get a certain amount of ganks off, but still be able to get your camps. Every game will be different, and you just need to play more games to get better at that. So, to recap, we have farming junglers and now ganking junglers. Ganking junglers have more opportunities to gank because of their amazing early game and lack of needing to farm. It comes with a drawback of having a worse late game, but as long as we use our great early game, we can maybe still win. Here are the champions for most ganking to least ganking in this class. Farming and ganking are both kind of extreme. One doesn't want to gank and the second wants to gank at every opportunity. I want something that is similar to the strong side and weak side path that we have been talking about. Well, you are in luck because the next class is all about it. The mixed bag class is exactly what it sounds like. These champions are good at being heavy farmers or heavy gankers, but they don't excel at either like the farming and ganking junglers. These champions all have a very unique playstyle, and their path kind of morphs around that champion, but also still revolves around what decisions they make. Just follow the same rules for the strong side and weak side path that we talked about in the last video. Anyways, what are the champions in this class? These champions don't come in any particular order. So now we know the 3 classes, but what can we do to make these 2 classes have a miserable game, and how can we counter the enemies from letting them do that to us? Let's start off with farming junglers. So what is one simple thing that these junglers need? Farm. Their farm is really important to them, and thankfully most of these champions' early game and 1v1 capabilities are not that great. This gives ganking junglers and even any jungler an opportunity to invade more, as they know that in most cases, they will be able to kick you out of your own jungle. This can be a heavy blow on the farming junglers. If we just take all their camps on one side of the map, it is already really good, because if they didn't know you were doing that, you get 3 quadrants worth of gold and EXP. If you also get a kill, it's even better, but just don't wait around for it too long. This isn't even just for farming junglers. If you have a really good early game matchup, we can do this in a lot of other games, just because we have a good matchup. So what is even the point of playing a farming jungler if you can't even do that and fight back? Well, fighting back as a farming jungler is not as simple as fighting the enemy jungler. It is about avoiding them at all costs and keeping an eye out in your jungle with wards. For instance, we talked about how the enemy can invade us and take a whole side of our jungle away. Trying to fight him would be useless, unless you have backup. But we also don't even know when he could do this either. Here are some scenarios that can happen in the beginning of the game. You are starting bot side and want a path to the top side. You know that the jungle might invade you, so you want to put down a ward. You can place a 116 ward in this bush to spot if the enemy jungler will go for your camps, or this one for the other side. While we are clearing bot, if we don't see the Viego come into our jungle, then we know we can just continue our path. If we do see the Viego, we can counter him. Just like he's doing, we can invade his bot side. Why is this okay though? Isn't that kind of dangerous? You might think it is dangerous because you aren't on your team's side of the map, but the cool thing about jungle is that no one goes into the jungle except the two junglers. So we know if Viego isn't here, this is pretty safe already, but we should watch all the lanes near your invade, just to make sure nobody's coming towards us. What Viego is forcing to do is vertical clearing rather than horizontal. This could go on for the entire game or maybe just for this one rotation of camps. This all changes how the strong side and weak side works. These two junglers are relatively both strong for us, and for the other side, these two junglers are weak. We are basically never going to be topside for this type of clear, but now we will be hugging bot side. We don't really care to gank anyways, but it's a good piece of information all junglers should know when they are getting invaded and what they can do. There even is another option you can do if you think you can defend your jungle. This is a little riskier, but it might be a good option for the game. Once we spot them invading, we can drop our camps and head over straight to top. Once we find them, we kill them, giving us 300 gold and the rest of the camps they didn't take. The downside is you might have lost a camp or two and your jungle needs a hard reset. Your tempo is gone and we should farm the rest of our jungle. Every decision we have in the jungle has a drawback, but if we can juggle all the upsides and downsides well enough, we can absolutely dominate. There is one more scenario I want to talk about though that could happen. This actually happened in my game. We are right at the start of the game and we just finished clearing one of our weak side camps. We spot the enemy jungler coming towards us as we are finishing it. We obviously run away if we are a farming jungler and sprint towards their topside jungle to clear theirs. This might seem a little crazy, but if we think about all the info we have when we jungle, we can make a great decision. Just take a look at my game. Kindred came into my jungle when I was clearing my second camp and I had to run and flash away. Sucks to lose the flash, but at least I lived and got 2 camps. Now why is it okay for me to sprint to her bottom camps? Well, pay attention to your scoreboard when this happens. If we hold tab and look at the scoreboard, we know she is level 2. That means she has at least taken 1 camp and it looks like it's her red. We can see if she cleared 2 camps if her jungle item is the same level as ours. This means there is 1 camp here and 1 or 2 camps in her top side. She needs to spend 3 camps worth of time clearing that, and even with some walking. That means we can spend some time walking towards their bot and stealing 1 to 2 camps back. She is spending her tempo here, and all we are doing is matching it. So now we know how to counter people just farming their jungle. But how about if the enemy isn't doing that and just ganking lane after lane after lane? We have one last scenario for this video that can happen in some games. If the enemy jungler is ganking bot side and we are bot side ourselves, cross-mapping is a little more challenging to do, but is still possible. Our first option is to counter gank the enemy. If we think we can win the 3v3, counter ganking might be a good option to stop the enemy jungler in their tracks. Another option is to gank a different lane, with the other lane being mid. This is like a little cross-map play where they are making an opportunity bot side and we are making an opportunity mid. The last option we have is to recall and watch what happens. The enemy jungler just used their tempo and we would like to know how much time they spent going for this gank. If the gank was short, we might have a little bit of time to take at least 1 camp from their top side. If the gank was pretty long, we have the option to take their entire top side. Again, the decision the enemy junglers make has drawbacks, and one drawback is we will have more time to do something else because they spent time bot side ganking. We have talked a lot about these classes, and you can already see how these classes create so many different scenarios and decisions that make the jungle that much more complicated. Just picking a certain champion creates new opportunities, and also the enemy picking a certain champion as well. Our decisions and their decisions have drawbacks, and we want to identify them and create a play during theirs or after. Jungle is a role where we constantly think about our next move and how the enemy jungler might switch our decision. You might think this is it, but the iceberg is a big one and we are just getting started. Strong side and weak side are very good bases of how you should clear and gank to be gold efficient. The only problem is that as you get higher into the ranks, the more rules or methods you need to learn to counter the enemy jungler. So let's talk about cross-map pathing. Let's first understand cross-mapping. Cross-mapping is a technique where while the enemy is doing something on one side of the map, you are doing something on the other side. They could be going for a gank while you steal their camps away. They could be taking drag while you are ganking top. Cross-mapping can be really useful to evening the odds in the game and punish the enemy for leaving space open, creating an opportunity. Cross-map pathing tries to create a jungle clear opposite side of the enemy, so when both junglers finish their clear, they will both have an opportunity to do something, but not interfere with one another except maybe mid-ganks. Here is a map of League of Legends. The first thing we need to do to start cross-map pathing is to know where the enemy jungler is starting. In order to do that, it will be extremely helpful to get some vision in their jungle. A good ward for this is to ward blue on either side. The reason for this is because when junglers start on blue side, two camps will spawn as the first camp they can take, blue and wolves. In almost all cases, blue will be the starting buff for when you start clearing blue side, as the pathing is already more efficient than the wolf start. One of three things will happen when you place this ward. A, you will spot them starting blue. B, you don't see them, which means they are starting on the other side. Or C, you don't see them, which means they could be taking your jungle. C is less likely to happen, but it is still some good information to know. When we know where they start, we can start on the opposite side of them. If they start top side, we start bot side. If they start bot side, we start top side. Simple enough. Congratulations, you just created a cross-map path. You can see how when you path top to bot and they path bot to top, you both end your clear on different sides of the map. This makes you interact less with the jungler and also creates cross-map opportunities when the enemy jungler is doing something. But why would you ever want to do something like this? As said before, when we do cross-map pathing, we don't interact with the enemy jungler at all, as we are usually on the other side of the map. If you don't have a favorable matchup against the jungler, it can be pretty difficult to protect your camps and also add pressure, as the enemy jungler is just one step away from countering you. It also kind of limits your choices on what you can do, which can feel terrible. So, cross-map pathing solves those issues by giving those opportunities back to you, so you can at least play the game. Since the jungler isn't around you, you can farm all your camps, without too much worry unless they invade. You can also have gank opportunities knowing you will always have an extra number. This also allows us to easily punish the enemy for spending too much time on their strong side because of our clear ending on their weak side. The cool thing about this is that it changes the name of strong side and weak side to strongest side and weakest side. This also makes their strongest side on our weakest side and their weakest side on our strongest side. When the enemy takes too much time spending doing objectives, ganks, and whatever else they are doing, their weakest camps will spawn before they reach them. This gives us an opportunity to steal all their camps on their side and also make more plays on the side they are not on. We should know when their weak side camps are spawning, because generally, if your weakest side camps are spawning, their weakest side camps should be respawning as well, at least in a perfect world. So we talked about how cross-map pathing can benefit us by giving us more opportunity than if we match our clear with the enemy jungler. But what are some of the drawbacks of this clear? One point we explained was that if the enemy takes too much time on their strongest side, their weakest side camps will come back up. This can also be done to you if you take too much time on your strongest side. This won't happen in every game, but it becomes more common when you get in the higher ranks, as you just gave them an opportunity to punish you. There is a counter to this, but it requires either you guessing they are stealing your weakest side camps, or that you know they are taking them because of vision. If you know they are taking your weakest side, we can do the same thing they are doing. Take the weakest side of their jungle. This might extend how much you guys are on the map for, but in situations like these, we need some type of way to make the game more even, and this is one of the easiest methods. You could also ignore it and take more time on your strongest side gathering more kills, objectives, and towers, but that becomes a little harder to do if the circumstances are not right. Another downside is that the enemy jungler kind of controls how we need to clear. Why is that? Well, if you want to do cross-map pathing, but you also want your bot side to be your win con, the enemy jungler needs to start bot so you can start top. But if the enemy starts top, you now have to either force the bad matchup and match the path, or do cross-map pathing, which gets rid of your bot lane as a win con. Another drawback for this type of clear is if we are in a good matchup. If we do a cross-map path when we are stronger than the enemy jungler, we just gave them a free opportunity to have a chance in evening out the game. The main goal of a cross-map path is to even the game out by having the enemy have one side of the map while we have the other. If we force the enemy to match our path while we have a favorable matchup, they can slowly start scaling and most likely not be able to do anything. If we let them cross-map path, they can even the game out in the early game to eventually scale and run away with the game. The one crucial part about cross-map pathing is matchups. If you don't know how bad or good the matchup is, it can be difficult to choose this type of pathing. In order to learn matchups, you need to play countless of games understanding how certain characters do against others. Other matchups you might want to consider when doing this type of clear is if we win the lane battle. If we match a clear with a jungler that we most likely win the matchup against, it can shrink how many opportunities they have. But if we lose against the 2v2 battle in top or the 3v3 battle in bot, we limit ourselves to not be able to gank on our strong side. So consider understanding if we can win against some small skirmishes. This takes a lot of time and practice, but once you learn something like this, it can heavily boost your consistency and rank. We have talked a lot about cross-map pathing, and you can already see how this different path can help or hurt your game. It can help you create opportunities without worrying about the enemy jungler countering, but it has some drawbacks that you need to follow. It hurts you if you have a favorable matchup, as it allows the enemy to create a more equal game, allowing them to scale and maybe win. Matchups are also super important to know to understand if you want to do this type of pathing, and it also limits you on how you path. This topic you won't use in all games, but it can be a great addition to helping you dominate more games to carry for a win. For the most part, we have talked about our jungle, how to farm it efficiently, how to counter invades, how to punish an enemy, and how to create gank opportunities for ourselves. But how about if we want to initiate something to bring the other jungler further behind? Invading is a very simple concept, but it is quite risky. We are going to mostly talk about early game invading. This would be around the level 1 through 6 mark in the game. Invading is the tactic where you go into the enemy jungle and 5 possibilities may happen. You can get all the camps on that side and get a kill, a perfect invade. You can get all the camps on that side of the jungle but get no kills, an okay invade. Kill the other jungler but get no camps or some camps, also an okay invade. Get no camps and no kills, a nothing invade. And lastly, you die and get nothing, the worst possible outcome invade. You can see how in all these possibilities, 1, you really want to happen, 2, you are okay with happening, and the other 2, you are not okay with happening. It lands around 60% of actually getting something good to happen, but we can increase those chances and also understand some basic concepts to know when our chances are lower. First, how do we avoid dying in an invade? One is obviously matchups. We need to understand how powerful our character is compared to the enemy. This comes down to playing the game a bunch, but we already talked about some of those matchups before, like how an early game jungler is more likely to win an invade, and a farming jungler should basically never go for one. Another concept we should look into when invading is understanding how healthy your clear is compared to the enemy jungler. Every jungler usually can clear with no problem. They most likely will never die when doing a clear. But some junglers have less healthier clears that make them have lower HP while they are doing them. Try to understand how much HP you will have when doing a clear, and guesstimate how much the enemy will have as well. There is also a really easy and neat trick you should do in every game to make your clear healthier. Make sure you are kiting your camps. Well, what is kiting in the first place? Kiting is mostly a skill learned by ADCs to keep pumping consistent damage but also allow them to keep a distance. This is possible because of attack speed. Every champion, minion, and monster has an attack speed stat that is faster when higher and slower when lower. When we attack someone, we have a bunch of dead time in between our attacks, which gives us an opportunity to move while we wait for our attack to refresh. This is much easier to understand and do with jungle camps, as they do the same thing every time you attack them. When you initiate an attack on them, they will attack you. When they are in range, they will sit still until their attack has refreshed. When they aren't in range, they will run towards you. And when they are in range again, they will attack once more if their attack has refreshed, because jungle monsters also have a certain attack speed. If we perfectly use kiting to our advantage, we can have a much healthier clear, which can help us be healthier in invades if the enemy wasn't doing the same. One more thing that I would like you to keep in mind while going for a later invasion around the early/mid game, which is around level 4 through 11. See if the enemy jungler is able to get support from their laners. An easy way to know if this is possible is to take a quick look into the lane to see what the HP the enemy laner is and what kind of wave state is happening. If the enemy laner has a wave state pushing into your team, they need to stay in lane, as if they don't, the enemy will lose all the gold and EXP as the lane slowly pushes into your team. If the lane is pushing into them, they have some downtime to help the jungle, but not a humongous amount because all they are doing is waiting for the wave to push into their tower. If the wave is pushed into your team, the enemy laner has a bunch of time to support the jungler. So we talked about how we can invade to avoid dying and increase our chances of getting a kill with our evade by kiting jungle camps, but how do we avoid getting no kills and no camps in an invade? In the early stages of the game around level 1 through 3, this isn't much of an issue. In all cases during this time, you will always get something off of invading if you don't die. But the later we go into the game, the more likely we might not get anything for our invade, which can waste a lot of time. This is when we need to learn about jungle tracking. This isn't the only reason why you should be tracking the enemy jungler, but this concept is the only concept stopping us from doing nothing invades. How do we begin tracking the jungler? Well, we first need to understand how they are clearing. It is entirely up to you if you want to know the pathing of the enemy jungler earlier or later in the game, but around 3 minutes and 30 seconds, we will know exactly what kind of path the enemy jungler is taking. The reason for this is scuttle, and also this is around the time every jungler ends their full clear if they didn't gank. This is when we will know if they are clearing from bot to top or top to bot. If they take top scuttle, they are clearing bot to top, and if they take bot scuttle, they are clearing top to bot. Simple enough. In most cases, this is all the information you need to know to track the jungler. When you are clearing your weak side, they are clearing theirs, and the same thing with strong side. If you are clearing strong side, they are clearing theirs. No need to complicate it and think about what camp they are on. Just a simple overall what side they are on is already incredibly useful. This immediately lets us know if we can invade on a certain side now, as we know where they should be when they clear. So now we know everything we need to know about invading. What outcomes are possible in an invade, what overall percentage of success can we have, ways to increase our success by kiting our camps and tracking the enemy jungler, and lastly, how other concepts decrease our chances of having a successful invade. If you watched all the parts of the jungle pathing iceberg, you are now a master at jungle pathing. In theory. Use all these concepts to the best of your capabilities, and I can guarantee you dominating a game will become much easier. Some of these concepts aren't used at all times, and it is up to you on when you want to use them. We explained a bunch of reasons why those concepts might be good or bad depending on the game state and what increases our chances of becoming successful. I hope you learned something good from this series, and if you did, please consider commenting, leaving a like, and subscribing. Good luck in the jungle, and thanks for watching.